Why is it that starting a video is always the hardest part? They don't teach you that in YouTube school. Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. This is my first time ever doing a book tag. Let's do the mid-year Freakout tag, which is probably my favorite book tag. My tea is almost done. The water's almost done boiling. So let's go. On to the questions. This question was already so difficult for me to answer because I've read some really incredible books this year so far. And I could have easily chosen 5-10 books that would fill this slot, but I meditated, I prayed on it, I really searched within, and what I found there was monster romances. Now, if you're not familiar with the world that I'm about to speak on, buddy, strap in, strap on? Maybe. If you were unfamiliar, there is a section of the internet where one can find romances, usually, but not always, between a human woman and a monster boyfriend. And sometimes these monster boyfriends are also alien boyfriends. Sometimes they're both things at once. Which brings me to my favorite book so far that I've read in 2022, and it is undoubtedly Bound by Tiffany Roberts. I know you're looking at this cover, this beautiful, exquisite cover, and you're like, Katie, you're just gushing about a sexy monster romance / alien romance book. You've read so many other classics and amazing books this year. Why are you choosing this? Well, let me tell you. So even before we get introduced to our couple, we're introduced to our hero of the story. He's the Spider-Man in the cover. His name is Catan. And Catan is in a arachnid-like society. There is a queen in his society, and this queen is bad news, guys. She's a bad lady. Spider lady. She's bad. And she wants to bone Catan so badly, but he cannot stand her because, again, she's a bad lady. In the first 5-6 chapters of the first book in this trilogy, our heroine is nowhere to be found. She doesn't exist. And so we just learn a lot about Catan, who he is as a person, what his backstory is, what he wants, what he desires, who his friends are, who his family are, how his society works. And Tiffany Roberts does this incredible job of laying out this, again, rich, intriguing, deep, exciting sci-fi world, right? So I'm already hooked. I'm like, this is so interesting. I'm very invested in Catan, very invested in his struggle, right? He leaves and he finds in the tangle, it's called the tangle, the jungle that he lives in. He finds this ship, this spaceship that has crash landed onto his planet over 100 years ago. He goes into the ship. He's a very curious person, and he finds a human female, and her name is Ivy. Finds her, takes her back to his nest, which is literally like a webbed cocoon in the treetops. Again, spider, you get it. If you have read Ice Planet Barbarians or any other similar story, you know what's going to happen. They're going to learn each other's languages, they're going to learn from each other, and then they're going to slowly fall in love, right? Again, that in itself super compelling. But then there's this whole other sci-fi novel that's going on over the romance, and it's so cool and it's so interesting. So you're going through the tangle with Catan and with Ivy, and I could feel the humidity, I could feel the heat and see the greenery and all of the other exotic plants that they were describing. This author duo knows how to write. So why did I pick the third book in this series? I picked the third book because for me, the third book was the ideal ending. Everything was wrapped up, and it was wrapped up in such a compelling, satisfying way. Go read this trilogy. Be kind to yourself. That's what I say at the end of every video, right? Be kind to yourself. This is a great way to be kind to yourself. You're welcome. I have my answer. I feel really good about it. Perfectly Pegasus by Jessie Sima. Now, if you don't know, this is the sequel to Not Quite Narwhal, which I'm going to be real honest with you, I didn't know that when I picked it up. I had no idea this was a sequel, but it is. You can tell. Look, there's kelp right there. Okay, so this is a sequel to Not Quite Narwhal. It's incredible. I love it. I'm also going to put down my tea because I can't do this anymore. Jessie Sima, they're an incredible author. They write the most heartfelt, beautiful books I've ever read. And the artwork is incredible, as you can tell by the cover, by the back. It's so good. And I am thrilled that I picked this up at my local indie. This is definitely the best sequel that I've read so far. I don't know if I'm gonna find anything that will unseat it by the end of the year. The Maid by Nita Prose. I checked this out from my library and I read the first 3 or 4 chapters and I loved it. The only reason I didn't finish it was because I had some other things that I had to read. I'm still not done with my TBR this month. I still have 2 more books to go through, but I'm very excited to pick this up maybe next month or the month after when I get a mystery thriller prompt, because the little bit that I've read so far, I loved it. The main character, Molly, is so endearing. Molly is a maid at a very fancy schmancy hotel in England, and one morning she finds the hotel's most important guest dead in his bed, and she has to figure out what happened because I think she becomes a suspect, but you know, I'm sure she's fine near the end of it. She figures out who killed him and why, etc., etc. The Kraken Sacrifice by Katie Robert. I read The Dragon's Bride, which is the first book in this series, and oh buddy, that is a Kindle Unlimited book that I gave 5 stars. It was so good. The premise of this book is that a group of human women from our world have made a deal with a demon, and the demon takes them to a parallel world where, you know, demons and dragons and gargoyles and etc., etc. are all real, including krakens, as you can tell by the cover. In the first book, a woman goes and marries the head of the dragon people. And so I'm assuming this book is about the woman who gets paired off with the Kraken leader as well. It's coming out in October and I could not be any more excited. I'm gonna be real with you. I made my list of my answers about a week ago, and then I picked up a library book and I had to change my answer for this question because man, I can't remember the last time I was so disappointed in a book. But let's talk about it. My answer for this question is unfortunately Feast of Sparks by Sierra Simone. This book is the sequel to A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone, which I read earlier this year. I loved it. Gave it 5 stars. I loved the chaotic bisexual energy of all of the characters. I also read Priest by Sierra Simone, which I also gave 5 stars. So I went into this book just expecting to give it another 5 stars. I just thought this was going to be an easy 5-star read for me. I was going to adore it. I was going to gobble it up and be so excited that I couldn't wait to read the next one. That's not what happened. Let me tell you why. I'm gonna put a spoiler warning down here, okay? And if you would like to go into this book without being spoiled on what happens in the end, just go ahead and mute me, go forward until that's not up anymore, and then you can come back in, okay? Here we go. There is a main couple in this book series so far, and it is between 2 men and 1 woman. This book was about the 2 men coming together and falling in love again after being estranged for so long. And that part of the book was great. It was so satisfying. It was so fun to read, right? Then, after these 2 men have sex multiple times throughout the novel, it is revealed at the end of the novel that they're half-brothers. There's an incest plot going on. And I don't like it. I don't like incest in my romance. I don't think it's hot. I don't think it's fun. I don't think it belongs in a romance. It's not okay. I don't care that they're half-brothers. And listen, if you know what happens at the end of this series, do not tell me, because I am going to finish this series because I need to know what happens. But I have an inkling, just from my own suspicions, that this is a misdirection and they're not actually brothers. I think that's what's going to happen. And if that's the case, I'm even more disappointed and frustrated and angry, because then literally all the author did was just come up with this artificial thing to cause drama and conflict in her story. I hate it. I don't like it. I had such high hopes for this book. I was so excited to read this book. And up until the end, it was an incredible book. I was ready to give it 5 stars, just like I gave the first one. And that last 5% killed it. I have read other books by Sierra Simone. I know that she's a fantastic author. I know she's a talented writer. And that's what makes this so much more frustrating and disappointing. Feast of Sparks by Sierra Simone. You did me dirty. So with that disappointment out of the way, let's talk about the book that was my biggest surprise so far. And I loved and was so pleasantly surprised by Burn the Page by Danica Rome. I put this on my to be read list last year, I think. Once the cover was announced, I saw it in bookstores, I saw it at my local library. So I decided to put the audiobook on hold, and I listened to the audiobook, and it was incredible. It's read by Danica. She reads the audiobook so beautifully, in such an engaging manner. This book was authentically Danica and about her and her life and her family and her hopes and her dreams and her fears and her insecurities as well. I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did. And I did. And I gobbled up the audiobook. I couldn't stop listening to it. Got super annoyed with my family when they tried to talk to me while I was listening to it. Was not expecting to enjoy this book to the degree that I did at all. So yeah, this was a huge surprise for me, but I am so happy that I picked it up this year. Okay, let me tell you about Tiffany Robert. This is a writing duo. It's a husband and wife writing duo, Tiffany and Robert, ergo the name Tiffany Roberts. Listen, I am so hyped for this author and the next book that they promise they're going to write next that is a part of my Spider's Mate trilogy that I'm obsessed with. I am so hyped for all of it that I signed up for their newsletter. I don't sign up for newsletters. I don't like receiving emails. I love them so much. I think that they're an incredible writing duo. They are my favorite writing duo of all time, period. Okay, so yeah, it's Catan from the Spider's Mate trilogy. Obviously, where have you been? I know he has 6 legs and 4 arms, and he is not, the more traditionally handsome hero in a romance novel, but like, man, I have such a crush on him, and I love him so much, and for me, it really was that first 5 or 6 chapters at the beginning of the first book that really nailed in the coffin for me that I'm in love with Catan. It's how I feel. For my newest favorite character so far this year, definitely Stephen from Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. Stephen is a paladin, ergo Paladin's Grace. You get it. He also knits socks in his spare time, walks around as a giant wall of muscle, and he's there to stand and to be surly and scary. And I love him so much. If it wasn't for Catan, he would have been my new fictional crush, but Catan exists, so I had to make certain choices. Stephen is so loyal and brave. It's really the fact that he knits socks. I think that's really what got into my little heart and why he's my new favorite fictional character. I definitely cried when I read The Catman of Aleppo to my child earlier this year. It is such an incredibly emotional story. It's such a hopeful story. I didn't know until I picked up The Catman of Aleppo and some other books that I picked up earlier this year how much I love picture book biographies, but I do. I love them so much. The Catman of Aleppo is a true story about a man named Muhammad who lives in Syria during the Syrian civil war. Muhammad shows up for his community in a number of different ways throughout the book, but the way he's known for the most is opening a cat shelter and taking care of the city's homeless cat population, because Syria is in the middle of a war and people are fleeing and they have to leave their cats behind. The bravery and dedication that Muhammad displays for his community made me cry. I Want My Hat Back by John Klassen. I love this book so much. It's hilarious. The whole Hat series that John Klassen writes is incredible. I could have picked any of those books for this prompt. My child loved this book. I'm not going to tell you what this is about. You just need to go read it. It's a picture book. It'll take you 2 minutes. You'll thank me. You're welcome. Oh God, I love Spy Family so much. The manga is incredible, but the adaptation is perfect. It's an anime, so obviously the art is going to be identical, but they didn't just nail the artwork, they also nailed the personalities of the characters, the way that they, express themselves in the world that the author has created. It's so flawless. My partner loves anime. He and I have been watching this together, which has been really cool as well. Yeah, it's definitely Dune. This review was so fun to make. I loved editing it. Everything about this review just ticked all the boxes for me. I didn't like reading this book, but I loved reviewing it. So again, really recommend the review for this book. It was a good time. I purchased a number of graphic novels so far this year. So I thought for sure when I looked at my bookshelf, I was going to choose one of them, but I have to be true to myself. It's definitely Piranesi because I am just obsessed with this cover. It's so beautiful. I love it so much. I love the gold. I love the gradient of the purple going into the black. I love the waves down here, and I love fawns. I really love like a mythological imagery. Oh, also, I started this. I really love it so far. It's very beautiful. It's cool to read a book and have the outside of the book match what's going on the inside of the book so well. I think that's another reason why I chose this as the most beautiful book, because I know already that the cover is really true and really belongs with the book. This is a long list, so I took the liberty of just making some images for you to look at. Enjoy. So that's a lot of books. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish them this year. I don't know. I still have to buy some of these books. I'm just a mess. So stay tuned to see if I did it. See if I finished the list. Maybe I should come up with a reward for myself if I finish the list. Maybe we can do like a vlog/book haul together if I get my act together and actually finish the list. Sound off in the comments if you think that's a good idea. Well, friends, that's my mid-year Freakout tag. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you had a good time. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video if you would like to see more content from me. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and have a great day. Bye.